off with. What do you think is going to be here next?
Oh, a big Thanahold and a big Serb Blank. Here we are, a big fight on the middle Phoenix.
As the Ganeshal goes down, Rataskrol also going down the backside. Crits are coming in left, right, and center on her. Giannis both getting kills individually. WK making the engage, but not benefiting them whatsoever as Kukulin now falls. All that's left is Chang'an. Thanatos is...
The question is, will he possibly be successful this time? A lot of damage on the...
And we're back. So I think before we left, we were talking real quick just about sort of that way that meta's playing out and how warriors are sort of taking over the jungle, and we see those guardians more often in that solo lane than not. And I think that that's very interesting. On top of that, we do have that sort of half patch that came out, which sort of nerfs some of those warrior items. So it's made warrior jungles a little bit tougher for the time being. Although, most of the items still pretty good. We're mostly just looking at things like Void Shield that have had that nerf.
Yeah, now especially with the new changes also to the items, I guess like everything shifted to that, you know. But we still have some, especially in the solo lane, there's still some warriors that you can play. We have Odin that is really like a high priority pick in the solo lane. And also, you can debate about Kukulkan or Hercules, which have like a really good laning phase. But still, we saw the power of Ario. Like every game in the SPL playoffs, if you have Ario, like you basically won the game. So I guess it's really hard to contest that.
Yeah, I think that that might also play a little bit into a slight resurgence in a healing meta that we've been seeing, right? I think we've seen gods like Ardio and Hell start to pop up. Well, specifically just Ardio and Hell pop up recently. I don't think we've obviously Emoja's always kind of been up there, right? But it's not like we're seeing Afro come back or anything like that, and so it's been refreshing slightly. I think that as most of my players will say, long-term healing metas are not fun to deal with, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some changes coming soon, especially in regards to Ardio and where she stands. But I wonder if RDO is just stronger, if that little bit of healing that kind of ticked her over.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like maybe you can argue that there are some healing meta in some way because you have seen a lot of Arion Hell, but also there's a lot of anti-heal characters in the game. That's why Odin is so predominant now with his ultimate. And also, we have Cerberus that is quite good in the soul lane and the support role and the Sobek. So I guess it's, maybe you have those high sustain picks that are prioritized, and now also like the direct counters to them are also prioritized.
Yeah, I think that that's a really, really good point. Odin, interestingly enough, is definitely like he's been, I would say, a top pick even a little bit before we saw picks like Hell and RDO sort of swing back into the meta. And he did get a little change in the last full patch to his kit, and maybe some people thought that that was just what he needed. But I think that there's no doubt the sort of team impact that Odin has on the game currently.
Yeah, well, as we can see now in the bans, Ario obviously banned, like no surprise there. Tiamat, that some people say she's not as good as she used to be, and I think that's fair. But she's still really strong, and the tankiness that she have is still up there. So I guess no surprise from that.
Yeah, I would say that she's gone from maybe a triple S tier god to a double or S plus tier god. So she's still doing pretty good right now, and I don't think that there are too many teams that'd be looking to pass up a pick if she were available. Although it's been a long time since I've seen that. I think that was when they gave Paul Tiamat what 3-4 games or something like that, and that didn't work out so well, if memory serves me correctly. So probably not going to see the Tiamat giveaway for free any longer, at least for a long time, maybe until she receives some changes. Although I feel like she's going to be one of those gods that's sort of hard to balance because just the way her kit plays, it makes her very useful. Kind of like King Arthur, right? King Arthur, you're like, oh, we take away the Glad Shield, he'll be fine, and then all of a sudden it turns out no, he found a way still to kind of hang around the meta for a while, and now we're seeing Cerberus picked up. You mentioned the Cerberus. What are you liking particularly in that solo lane about Cerberus right now, Snake?
Well, I mostly see him like a direct counter to those high sustain we were talking about, and considering the bans, because they also banned Jemoja. I guess they're guessing they're going through like a high sustain lane. Maybe not in the soul lane, but there's still like other characters that can have like the same sustain in other lanes. Like the hell is not banned, so maybe they can pick it up. Or in the support role. So I guess they're like guessing the other team is going to pick like a lot of healing, so I guess that's why they went for the Cerberus.
That looks like they're gonna look for the hell themselves right now. And I think that Hell and even RTO to maybe a slightly lesser extent, and gods like Terra as well. Terra also a very good healer in the current meta. What they allow you to do is they allow you to stick around a little longer, right? And we do see the Terra picked up on the other side, so that Cerberus pick now looking pretty smart. And what it does is it basically lets you keep sieging, right? Instead of having to back and then regroup, and that takes a whole 30 seconds, you just heal up and you push to the next objective.
Yeah, but the thing here is like where is Cerberus going to go? Like if he goes to the solo lane, he's going to mainly be caring about the backline. And if not, he's going to, maybe counter a little bit the Terra sustain that she can bring to the dual lane. So we will see because I'm guessing the Gilgamesh is going to jungle, so uh I don't know who the solo laner can be.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who they pick up as a solo laner here, and whether or not they do go the Gilgamesh Cerberus. Maybe they haven't decided. Maybe they just pick those because they're very strong in the meta currently, and then they're like, oh well, we'll see. If somebody else is available later, we'll wait and see if we can get a good counter pick. I mean, that's sort of the game that you play with picks bans, right? Yeah, picking these flex picks allows you to counter pick a little bit better and still kind of get what you want in a team fight.
Yeah, and now seeing the bans, they're heavily focused to the dual lane, even though they already picked the Terra. Uh, the Circuit and the Fenrir bans, I don't think they're going specifically to jungle because those are both of them are like assassins that are doing really good in the support role, especially because the sustain meta that has been arising. So I don't know. Maybe we saw also like the Kepri that Aurora play in the finals, so I guess that's a other priority pick. But now they pick the Kukulkan.
Yeah, Kirk Holland. Going back to that warrior sort of meta we saw just before this little guardian meta there, and Kukulkan was very, very strong. I still think that he's strong. I don't know about you, Snake. He might have a little trouble fighting into these guardians with a Vamp Shroud build, maybe outboxing them, but he still has his place, in a team fight, right?
Yeah, he's tanky. He's so tanky. Like, and the pressure of lane maybe is now not the same as it used to be because of the warriors. I mean the guardians in the solo lane. But I think he still got a place. And from what we've seen, I guess he's going against a server. So I don't know. Maybe it's not the most favorable matchup there, but you know, maybe with a little help of with the jungler, they can do something up there in the solo lane.
Yeah, and we saw the Sobek picked up as well, so they're doubling down on that anti-heal. And I just have a little trouble seeing here on our stream, a little technical difficulties on my side, what that last pick is. Snake. Looks like it is a Camazotz. How do you feel about this Camazotz pickup into a Sobek and maybe a Cerberus?
Um, I don't know. I mean, he's like he's like uh, he has like a lot of sustain, but for himself. So like maybe he's going to have like a little more trouble ganking the solo and the dual lane, but you still have that 3v3 in the mid lane that can work really well in the early game. So maybe they're more focusing on helping the mid game. I mean, the early game for the mid laner because it's also against a hell, which is really difficult to deal with now.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see how these picks do end up working out. We are going to throw it over to the cast with Frog and Bash.
Thank you so much, Dino and Snake, for that picks and bans analysis. I am Frog, joined by Bastion on the cast, and these are some pretty interesting comps coming out. I don't know what catches your eye first, so I'm just going to give the floor to you right off the bat. What pops out the most?
Well, unfortunately for everyone out there that thought the healing meta had finally not become a thing, you can credit DePaul to bringing that back, and the hell is going to be piloted here by God's base drop, and that kind of sticks out just simply because of how much attention this hell usually requires. I mean, if you can't kill it early on, we all know how difficult it is whenever everybody on the enemy team is just getting healed right back up to full, so we'll see how they can deal with that, and having the Terra for yourself could be a little bit of that answer to have some healing of your own.
No, I completely agree. The Hell has seen a lot of play recently, started over there in that solo lane, but quickly moved on over to the mid lane, and we do see that Cerberus as well has gained some popularity, but it's on the side of the Hell this time as opposed to against it to potentially act as a counter pick. They managed to get both of those picks, put that over in the solo lane, and I heard Snake mention on the cast the prevalence of these Guardians coming into the solo lane, and we do see that from one team here, the other team going a more standard warrior in the form of Kukulkan. What are your thoughts on that matchup?
It really comes down to the prevalence of Vamp Shroud and having that protection on it. Of course, the sustain has allowed them to have pretty good matchups for the most part, and Cucullin hasn't looked as good as it has in the past, so that plays into it as well. Still can be quite a lane bully if you're able to play it well, and it just depends on what that matchup looks like. But the CC is really the difference there coming out of the solo lane.
Absolutely, Cerberus with that large AoE ultimate actually disrupting and moving people as opposed to just the knockup from Cucullin. But we do see some good poke exchanged here in the mid lane, and that solo laner down to a little bit of a low health bar a little bit earlier. Cucullin not finding the favorable end of that trade. Cerberus exchanging poke, continuing to at least. But it looks like we've started out with a pretty standard laning phase, and it doesn't look like anybody has a serious advantage quite yet. If you were to favor maybe a side of the map for God's base drop to really look towards playing through, is it towards this solo lane, or are you more looking to facilitate this global ultimate haver in the Apollo?
I'm going to kind of flip the script on you a little bit, and I think you play through the mid lane, especially the way the meta's been in general, and the fact that you obviously have a Hell that once you get to that mid lane and that late game can be nigh impossible to kill. You want to really get that lead built up a good bit, especially into something like a Raijin that can kind of counter that a little bit. We know how well Raijin can spread that anti-heal, but it looks like a blue buff invade coming out.
They do want to get that going, so they choose the solo side of the map early, but a quick brawl over in the dual lane happening as well at the same time. They did get that blue buff with almost no resistance. It did seem like the members of Legionary were there to hang around, but didn't step up, even though Cerberus was a little bit weak. But we've seen some consistent trading now in all three lanes, as Raijin's gonna be forced, I think, back to his base after this wave, maybe after that red buff at a low health bar himself. But yet another potential buff invade is Sobek trying to make something happen on this purple steel. Camazotz is looping behind though, and they're not aware of his presence, trying to get some damage on his Sobek, forcing out the pluck early. But no follow-up there. A Beads Force, though, potentially important the later we go in. Apollo Beads forced early by an errant stun.
It's a big pickup for them, and not sure that Apollo really needed the beads there. It didn't look like they were in a position to chase it down, but now that you have that timer, it opens up quite a bit for Legionary, and that's good for them to have this left side that they can start to look at. We saw the blue buff invade come out, and that's not all too surprising considering the box ability that comes out of the Cerberus. It has that shred on the 2, of course, the stun, quite impactful, and it looks like Gilgamesh is going to try to take it to Camazotz in the jungle.
He definitely does want this fight level ahead so far. He does have the ultimate available to him, but losing some poke early on in that trade. Looks like he might have just been in that jungle to get his passive item. Gets that tier 1 Ancile online. Maybe a good option to build into if he chooses to go that direction, but we're still killless here at 4 minutes into the game, and it seems that God's base drop don't need the kills to enhance their lead. Already more than 1,000 gold ahead. Just a little bit of a better efficiency in farming, I think, from them.
Certainly looks like it, and we've had metas, of course, where kills can put you really far ahead, but this season, really more than any other season, doesn't matter as much about kills. We've all had those games where you may be up by 10 kills, but there's only really a level gap, if that at times, so it certainly allows you to just focus on that farm and not have to worry about it as long as it doesn't lead to those big objectives that we talk about. And for so far, we've seen 1 or 2 invades, but it hasn't been a heavy focus that we'd like to see. God's base drop started out strong on that and have left off just a little bit. Would like to see them get back to that.
Completely agree. They did have that first blue buff invade, put a little bit of pressure on that first purple buff respawn as well, but we haven't seen either of those followed up on. That blue buff will go freely to the Cucullin, and the purple buff not being engaged on as well. Everybody just content to stay on their sides of the map currently and farm up some of their own experience as they maintain this lead that they potentially already have. And I think I'm looking specifically really at this Sobek that we're highlighting right here. Retrofade on this pick is something that I could have seen go towards the solo lane early on in the draft. I think the Cerberus and the Sobek definitely could have gone either way, but now that we do see it in the support role and he has that ability to rotate throughout the game, I think there may be some potential for him to get plays going, but we do see an engage on the Terra, that knock-up immunity preventing her from getting pulled back there, so not in any real danger. But what are your thoughts on the Sobek being the playmaker here? Do you think it's on him, or it may be more be on this Argent Surge on this Gilgamesh?
I think if you're able to get some really nice plucks, that's going to open things up. And of course, if you're able to strip away those beads ahead of time, it allows Cerberus to have much more of an impact on the backline dives, the Gilgamesh as well. Of course, you have the knockback in the winds of Shamash that sometimes you want to beads and get out of dodge with, so we'd like to see that. But another pluck going to be off the mark here, and this Terra's made it difficult.
He does take a little bit of poke, though. Gilgamesh jumping in, trying to see if he can find the drop kick, but Terra keeping that heal square or heal circle up in order to gain that knockback immunity, and that doesn't happen right now, though. She does not have that available to her, and Sobek's choosing to engage, standing in the heal circle, looking for the double dash, as Sobek will get a little bit more damage, and the final tick of that Winds of Shamash will secure the first blood for God's base drop.
Nice to see them get that for themselves, and they have a bit of a gold leak coming out of it, looking around 2,000 gold. The difference, we saw that the Gold Scorpion was taken down, so this is going to look like a gold pull for them, starting to put the damage on, and Legionary are trying to rotate in on the backside, might be looking for the Raijin ult.
50% down to health, and they do have vision on this thanks to the oracles. Camazot's going to try and get in there into the ultimate Rama as well. Raijin doing a triple ultimate on their team, but Cerberus now in the backline. Sobek joining, forcing the beads out of Raijin, and now the dash as well. Terra has rejoined from base, but it might just be the 2v1 over in the duel lane. Rama down to half HP. Everybody's forced out for now, but the team that has the Hell may have the advantage in these longer engagements, getting some healing off at the end of this one, but it looks like both teams choosing to back off.
That was a bit of an interesting fight coming out. God's base drop has Argent Surge go over and box out the ADC, but that wasn't the immediate threat, and I know that, of course, we always talk about Rama's steal potential, but the Raijin was able to walk in, and that kind of made it a little bit difficult for them to pull it there, and neither team going to be able to get it. We see some pressure, though, applied to this Apollo, who did, of course, use the ultimate, wasn't able to find the kill on the landing, and that does mean that the Draugr is also going to go down there, so a bit of a tough one for God's base drop.
Almost all ultimates falling from both sides except for the solo laners, and it looked to me like Cerberus was able to make that rotation on time pretty much, and Cucullin chose not to, and he has ended up a level or a half a level ahead as a result of it. And that brings me as well to Cucullin's item choice. But before I get a chance to talk about that, we'll see the Gold Fury picked up yet again, down to half HP, and nobody's ready for it. Legionary not in position to contest this one. Rama without the ultimate to potentially steal that away, and they will take that off the board for the first objective in favor of God's base drop.
That's a really heads-up play, just knowing the timers, and of course Tansy does not have the ultimate, gets a little bit of a whiff of it and just can't work their way into it, and that's really what we want to see them follow up off of those timers, have that recognition, and so far we're not going to have the Pyromancer up just yet for that to be a trade out. A lot of times we do see that come across. Now, you mentioned the Cucullin having that level difference, and we've got to see them have this impact now. They're starting to get online in the build. It does have some damage. We'll see if they can make it happen.
Sobek not able to make that connection on the pluck. Raijin's bead still down, so that could have been some potential follow-up. Those are still down from the Gold Fury engagement a little bit earlier, but not able to make anything happen. And that's sort of been the theme of how we've been going. We've got that one kill from a little bit earlier on, but past that point, it's been some wariness from both sides to try and make an engagement happen. But we see both members of the enemy team here rotating towards this blue side. Engage on Terra, down to half HP. Cerberus trying to finish this off. Terra ult forced out, and it may now be Hell on the backside. Ability blocked off, but it will be Cerberus finishing off that kill. Stuck in a bad spot now is Cucullin, down to half HP, down to no HP. Rahum taking that second kill of the engagement. God's base drop securing 2.
Terra gets caught out, not having the vision the way you might want it, and that's not going to be good for them. A little late as well on the ultimate. That might have helped them skirt around a little bit longer, and we will see the Pyromancer being pulled. If they can get this for themselves, that'll help bolster this gold lead, which is now starting to get towards 2.5, maybe 3, but the Pyromancer does get stolen away there. The Rama ultimate going to be a little bit better.
Andy coming in at just the right time to steal that one away, so keeping his team on the board in contention. They always have been. That was never under duress, but getting them a little bit of extra gold and XP right there to the side of his team. But it does look like God's base drop have been in the driver's seat pretty much this entire game, despite the lack of kills, despite the lack of engagements in general. Both engagements that have happened on a serious note, God's base drop has won. They have come out on top, able to take that Gold Fury early in a moment of lapse from Legionary. They weren't there on time. And the several fights, I mean, just right there on the blue buff, it was maybe bad positioning from Legionary that put them into a place where God's base drop needed to capitalize on the mistakes as opposed to them pushing the enemy into forcing them to make mistakes. But regardless, it seems like they definitely have their hand on the wheel right now.
Most of the time when you're looking at just kind of these mistakes in general, as you would call them, it does come down to positioning a bit, but typically when you see the god displacement that something like a Sobek has, they're going to be the initiators often rather than not. And then Cerberus, of course, with the displacement on the Stygian Torment can also facilitate for them, so not really surprising to see that God's base drop have been trying to push the pace a little bit, and it's worked out for them so far. We'll see if they're able to transition this for themselves. 3 kills, certainly not a massive lead, and the gold lead not massive either, but it is a little concerning that Cucullin, that did have this lead, no longer has it and is being pushed out by the Serb.
Like Arjun is on his way over here. Good stun by the Cerberus coming out. May lead him to his doom right here. Dropkick not on the mark with Cerberus's ultimate, but will secure the kill anyways. Prodigy forced to jump away. Thought he may have been able to help out there, but Pittsburgh Adam does fall, although he does even up that level lead as he does. So maybe only half a level for Cerberus, but we're going to get yet another engagement. Pluck on the board from Sobek puts Hell potentially into a good spot on enemy teammates. Excuse me, not Hell, Cerberus, or Camisats. Man, just a huge engagement in terms of length. I mean, it's been very long over here on the right side of the map, and now they're trying to steal the blue buff as a result. They don't manage to secure it. Prodigy does take that one away, and it might now be Arjun Surd in a rough spot. Tries to get that drop kick off, but those Taiko drums will prevent him from getting kicked back, and he will take off that first kill. Sobek put in a spot right now to try and pluck Chubby Ostrich back, but great Terra Walls prevent him from going into that danger. Rayham takes a kill anyways. The name is longer falls early on in this fight, and it might be Hell. Falling is the next one. Pittsburgh Adam now back from base. Good peel from the Sobek to save his mid laner right there, but it might not be Camazot's trying to get the damage and finishing the kill onto Cerberus, trying to chase Sobek to get a second one in this engagement, but it might be Sobek turning it around onto Prodigy with that damage from Hell coming in as well. This engagement has gone on for years, it seems like. Pittsburgh Adam might be the one to finish it off as he tries to find some of these final kills, but the last 2 members of God's base drop will escape.
That's going to allow this Apollo to take down a tower, but Chubby Ostrich, the MVP there, just having a really big impact on this Raijin. Unfortunate that they couldn't also lock down the Hell. This Hell has been pretty slippery, and the damage is going to come through, as we saw in that fight. Is starting to get that stage where they can be really menacing, and if you're not able to really use that Raijin ult or just look at them pretty heads up early on in the fight, they can have that impact for them. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh Adam not able to rotate in and secure that kill. We'll see if they look towards this Oni, likely going to be the next objective on the map.
Fury has respawned. We do have 3 members from God's base drop over on this side of the map, and it confirmed 2 not going to be here for Legionary. Well, it's just Cerberus missing from God's base drop, getting very low, and it's not going to be anyone from Legionary getting there in time. Terra tries to catch some members out potentially there for a little bit longer, but she isn't able to get that CC on anybody, so it will just be another free objective. I say free, but Cerberus may fall in trade. Low health bars as he falls right there. Rama and Camazot's teaming up to trade out 1 for the gold free, but it might not be the Apollo ultimate trading in as well. Rama into the air, but might be in a bad spot upon landing, and he does immediately fall. Gilgamesh as well, trying to take down Camazot's force into the ultimate, but not going to chase members unless he's behind his team. And it might be the Taiko drums followed by Cucullin taking out 2 members, maybe pushing up a little bit too far after getting that objective, taking off more than they can chew.
That was a nice turnaround there. You lose the Cerberus obviously early on for this God's base drop team, and then you're looking to turn it around, but just can't find it. You get the kill onto Tansy, and this Raijin has really been the problem for them, as we see it could be the Sobek next on the menu. The damage being poured on the tower, trying to do what it can to help retro fade, but it's not going to be enough as the T1 also falling. This could be a call over towards the Pyromancer, and it looks like they're going to head that way.
They are heading towards that objective. They may choose to do the Fire Giant instead. I'm glad that they didn't. I think the Pyromancer is the right call in this scenario, but yet another potential overstep from a member of God's base drop. Sobek could have survived there, chose to give up his life instead, and potentially give up the tier 1 tower. Who knows? They may have not taken that if he had not fallen, but a huge win for Legionary. Almost no kills on the board before that. They managed to pick up several, now almost even with God's base drop, both in terms of kills and in terms of gold. An absolute step back into this game.
We've seen some really elongated team fights, and that's simply because both teams have healers, and while you can argue that Hell is certainly a little bit better at getting that up faster than Terra, they're both fairly comfortable on these elongated fights. Camazotz, of course, is going to have both through the passive and through the bats as well, just that self-sustain, so that's why we've seen a lot of this. But something that I haven't seen just yet that's a little bit surprising is we haven't seen the Cursed Aunt come out from Legionary at all, and dealing with the Hell, you typically are going to want to have that online so you can get that burst down early, especially with the Terra ultimate to combo with the Raijin. A little bit of a misstep for my money.
And we do see that bead selection out of the Cocoon as opposed to something like that Cursed Donk, but it may be Terra in trouble here. Pushed back or plucked back by Sobek, put in a rough spot, but immediately able to get that double dash out of dodge. Still at a low health bar here, and we see 4 members from each team in this solo side of the map, and Apollo has the ultimate on his way towards the fight, but not choosing to use it, so it looks like nobody's going to engage from either side. Both teams hesitating to make a definitive call here to try and engage, and I think that's what we've seen for the majority of the game.
Another thing to keep in mind is also, since we've seen so much fighting around these objectives, neither team has the best secure, and when you think Rama's typically more stealing it away, it's not something you want to be banking on in general. Hell has a decent amount of burst, but isn't something like the Cuckoo, the Scylla, that big Poseidon Kraken in it. That's typically been the holdup around these objectives, not often wanting to kind of take those 50-50s that you otherwise might start to look at this point.
No, absolutely. Both teams lacking that typical secure ability, although those Taiko drums may be the favored one here in terms of the mid mages, but a lot of damage coming out from both sides if that objective were to be collapsed on. Sobek trying to pluck in late beads from Prodigy will spell his doom early on, and that's maybe the pick that they were looking for. Everybody now on this side of the map grouped up towards this Fire Giant. Gilgamesh forced to jump away, but now they've taken up this objective. Sobek tanking it. It's not falling that fast. No crit for Apollo just yet outside of that tier 2 item, so not as much shred on this Fire Giant as perhaps he's looking for. Rama as well, still with the ultimate, as well as the Taiko drums. Both steal ultimates up and waiting for their opportunity. Hell, trying to heal her teammates, but now Sobek has stepped off and Terra stepping in, stunning out the Cerberus, forcing his jump, but it's Gilgamesh going in on the back line. Raiju forced out into the Taiko drums, and he will fall. Cullen securing that kill, but it might be Raijin next on the chopping block as he will fall as well as his opponent mid laner. Both fall towards the end of this fight. Rama now trying to put out the damage, but he will fall as well. Hold that thought, he turns it around, killing Zeku as Tansy does eventually fall, but Cerberus falls as well. A 2 for 4 right now. Sobek the only one standing, and he may not be able to survive at the end of this. Good stun will finish it off. Pittsburgh Adam picking up 3 kills in that fight.
What a phenomenal pluck that starts things off of the Sobek, and you think that's going to open it up, but just really weird fighting there coming out of God's base drop. It's probably the best word for it, having the Zeku just tank up the Fire Giant, health bars drop low, and they weren't able to find a nice engage on the backside of it. However, Legionnaire are also not going to have the ADC, so that means they are going to look over at this Gold Fury, but picking it up for themselves will add a little bit more to their coffers and can start to look likely with a little bit of pressure and some confidence after cleaning that one up towards this Fire Giant.
No, absolutely. That's the second fight in a row where Legionary have been able to been on the counter-engage side and come out on top in a serious way. Not as dominant of a fight as their previous one, where they came out with only one member dying. It was a little bit closer than that, but the key to me is Tansy in these fights, just putting out so much damage on the ground, but it seems like he's using his ultimate very early in these fights to get off the damage, especially in that fight, using his ultimate while he was the furthest one forward of all of his team members, was able to get off some damage, but forced to roll back towards his team when he wanted to get into the fight, but it might be a fight started on the enemy side. Now Legionary actually trying to start the action as opposed to being forced into it, trying to finish off Argent Surge here very low, and it will be Prodigy taking that one to the bank, trying to be in the backline. Hell, now a very low member of the enemy team. She will fall as well. Zuko takes down the enemy team as well. He gets a trade kill, but he will also fall. 3 for 1 right now, and it's only the tanks left standing. Raijin dashing in onto Sobek, going to try and finish off this kill, and he will be successful with that final kill, and it will be a triple kill coming out of Chubby Ostrich. Once again, potentially the MVP of that fight.
Chubby does notch a lot of damage there in this Raijin, certainly hitting with the Taiko drums. This will open up a look towards the Fire Giant there, but you hit the kind of the nail on the head. They're going to go actually for the Pyromancer first, but Tansy has been ulting early, and we've seen it before out of players like Cyclone Spin. If you can get that damage off, you put him in this weird spot of, hey, do I Aegis all this damage coming out early from the Rama, or do I have to save it for the Taiko drums? And then suddenly I'm at half health or lower, and that's the position that God's Space Drop have been put in. Cerberus gonna show up, try to contest, is starting to put up a little bit of a fight, but the Fire Giant is gonna be finished off here. The kill going to Prodigy as well.
Cerberus unfortunately not able to get the steal there, although he was a little bit close, maybe making the members of Legionary sweat a little bit, but they do pick up that objective. That's their second objective of the game. They managed to take one Gold Fury earlier, but it's by far the most important one, and you see how these graphs are trending now. Heavily favored on experience towards Legionary, and now favored in gold, although I hesitate to say heavily as much as the experience is favored. 4,000 gold at 23 minutes. I mean, how much of a difference can it really make?
It can make a little bit of a difference. You're not typically at this point when we're talking about a big difference, you're looking at like 8K, 10K, then you're sweating it a little bit. Obviously, the later this game gets, gold's going to matter less. And certainly XP, as big as the difference, is the big concern right now, because there is that discrepancy between the two. And that eventually will also shrink once you hit level 20. Of course, you can't go any higher, but there's still some towers on this map, and it looks like they're going to turn their attention to getting this left side T2. Likely will probably just walk across, take out these T2s, then maybe look for Phoenix if you can get a pick.
That would be the disciplined play. It would also take a large chunk, if not the entirety, of their Fire Giant. But Aggro likes to say consistently, the first Fire Giant should not be used to win the game. It should be used to set up the next Fire Giant, and that seems to be the mindset that Legionary have right now. Getting the left T2 now on board to get the middle tier 2 as well, and it looks like a Cullen heading over to clear some waves to prep for the right tier 2, and all 3 of those towers will fall, extending that gold lead even further, especially after this last tower has fallen. At only 23 minutes into the game, though, I think I would have expected them to at least be in position to defend one of these tier 2s, but they've chosen to give up all 3 of them.
You're really looking at a question that you have to answer for yourself there of, do I want to try to defend it now, or do I want to take a fight later on with a bigger deficit? But it looks like they're going to have to take it around this Phoenix. Pushing in is Legionary.
Frenzy gets popped. Cerberus trying to pull some members in, does put them in a rough spot and able to jump away as well. Terra Ultimate's been popped, and it might now be Hell falling first at the fight. Argent trades out the enemy support as well. Forced to jump away, though, not able to finish off the kill on that Raijin, now dangerously low in the backline, but it's Cullen now in a little bit of trouble. Apollo trying to get those basics, but not able to finish off that kill, and it might be Argent Surge, a little bit of an over chase here. He'll get traded as well, 1 for 1 towards the end there, 2 for 2 overall, but they will successfully take the Phoenix.
And that works out a little bit sloppy, but works out all the same for them as you really are trying to target down that Phoenix. Not only have you cleared out all the T2s, but you pick that up, though. Looking for a pickup here onto the Camazotz is God's base drop. Going to use Apollo's Chariot and just cannot find the lockdown onto this one. It's up to them to try to push out these waves and see if they can put up a little bit of a defense around the next Fire Giant, but we also have this Primal Fury that could be looked at if they want to get there quickly.
That will be the next objective up on the map, the Primal Fury, giving you some more damage on those objectives. And this next Fire Giant could be the deciding one. Not Enhanced Fire Giant quite yet, but will be the place for the next large team fight to happen. It looks like Apollo will not contest this Primal Fury going down for the side of Legionary as Rama solos that one to completion. But it will be this next Fire Giant that comes up in about a minute and a half here that will likely be the next site of contention for both teams. Now, they did take down the right Phoenix, which commonly referred to as the worst Phoenix to take down because those fire waves are so close to that Fire Giant. They're able to be taken down while also maintaining a position on the Fire Giant to defend it. And that leads me to believe that I think they're in a good position, or at least an okay position, to defend this next objective on the map.
Bottom line being that there were some good things. Despite the fact that you lose the Phoenix, you're of course able to trade out too, so it certainly wasn't like they just absolutely lost the fight outright, but they could be losing a Sobek here as the damage getting poured on, looking for the lockdown, and that will be an ultimate excuse, but they're going to jump over the wall, looking to find the damage and just can't lock down this slippery reptile as they're going to walk away with their life.
Forced into lurking in the waters, they're gonna take away an ultimate as they ready for this Fire Giant siege. But that pick out, or at least that TKO forcing him back to base, may have put God's base drop in a rough position to try and defend this one. Nobody near enough to the Fire Giant as it's blinking, about to fall from the heavens right now, but it looks like Apollo, Cerberus, and Sobek will team up to clear the speed buff, not necessarily heading towards the Fire Giant outside of Sobek. He just made this mistake earlier, stepping up alone. He's completely alone right now. None of his teammates near him. Just trying to get an eye on the Fire Giant, but won't put himself in the danger he was last time. And it's now Legionary once again with the Fire Giant, looking to head down the right lane.
Don't dislike the decision not to try to contest it. It's going to be a little tough for them, and certainly look like they had a decent defense overall. Of course, we talked about it. They were able to trade out despite losing the Phoenix, some of that. So we'll see what they look to do here, but it's got to be something going for them on this displacement early on to put somebody in an awkward position and try to get this pick early on. If they let the Terra lead and walk in and ult, it's going to be tough.
Sobek standing out in front, potentially looking for that pluck, as you mentioned. Lets the minion wave walk in, and it's just Cerberus extending a little bit of poke. Argent Surge throwing out that Wind to Shamash, forcing Kukulin to engage on the backline as well. Half health, almost to no health as he finds his way out into the backline. Cerberus falls low as well. Both tanks now low on both teams, and it might be the enemies of Legion falling right now. Cerberus, or excuse me, Camazotz in the backline, picking up the first kill of this team fight. Zeku falling fast, and it might be Gilgamesh now in a rough spot, forced to jump away, and all members are low on the side of God's base drop. Hell trying to use that healing to save the game right now, but it will not prevent him from falling, and it will not prevent the Titan from falling as Legionary take game one.
A little bit messy in the early game, but they pull it together and pull out the win on some nice fights late game. Chubby Ostrich putting in the damage numbers, and Tainsy, just that artillery style damage between the two carries really came up big for them. And we talked about having down that Phoenix, but all it took in that last was letting those minions start to push in. That signal go for them, and overall able to take it away.
Well, that'll do it for us on the cast for game one. We'll throw it back to the desk to break that one down.
Thank you, Frog and Bash. This is Dino joined once again with Snake, bringing down the post-game analysis. Real quick, I did want to make a correction on the desk segment beforehand. I mentioned that God's Base Drop had lost their last game. They actually won it against the Washed, and that is my mistake, so apologies for that. This time, however, they do drop at least game one for now. Snake, in your opinion, what exactly happened there? What went wrong for them?
It's kind of ironic, but you know, when the team fights started to go the um for the Hastatii team, is because they focused Hell immediately. Like she was not allowed to do anything. At the same moment the fight starts, she gets focused and she gets to die. And since then, the team fight went so easy for the boys because they have the constant pressure for the Kamazots, the constant pressure for the Kukulan, the sustain from the Terra, so they have nothing else to do.
Yeah, I think that, looking at the drafts, at least in my opinion, God's base drop had the advantage, but just the way that Hastati navigated their team comp and the way that they played the game of Smite just ended up being a lot better. And so I think that at least God's base drop is going to have to look at the way that they approach, team fights, because this wasn't lost in picks and bans.
Yeah, and as I was saying, I guess um maybe the mistake was that they didn't protect the Hell the same way, but also the mispositioning of Hell was maybe also an issue. Because if you are going to run down a comp like that, you need to have your backline um safe. And even though that Hell has a lot of healing, she doesn't have like any good mobility to be safe for the front line of the other team. So I guess maybe miscommunication, maybe not really coordinated in the team fights. So what I will change for this next game, if they're going to run the same comp, is just protect the botline.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call. I'm curious to see what sort of changes they do make. And I think that Hell is one of those gods right now that if you can really buy her space to operate, she can really do what it is you need to do. She can get the healing off, she can get those damages. But when you have strong dive comps, gods like Kukulane, right? It makes Hell's job very, very difficult to do, especially when you start throwing in a little bit of anti-healing and things like that. I think that, the Hell doesn't operate the way that you would like her to. And so it's weird because you look at the team comp and they should have been able to buy space for the Hell, but it's really hard, as you saw at times. Kukulane was fighting off 3-4 members of God's base drop just by himself, and so that's a problem, uh, that they're gonna have to learn to deal with. And I think that maybe looking to ban Kukulane is not the play you want to make. I mean, do you really, in the current meta, want to be banning away Kukulane instead of something else that's even more dangerous? I don't know if that's play call, but if you look at it in the post game, you're like, I don't think that we can realistically adjust to this in between the game. This is something that maybe in the next few scrims or something we're gonna have to adjust. Maybe a temporary fix like throwing a band-aid on it and banning Kukulin is the call. Um, and another thing I think is worth noting right now is Camazot's, while not hailed as a meta character, I think Camazot's is actually really, really good. And it makes sense. He's one of the more tanky assassins, right? And so he sort of kind of fits in with the meta, but he's kind of overlooked at the same time.
Yeah, I the thing is like his damage is still high, and there was also a time that he was also considered like as a good solo laner, mainly because of the sustain he can get. And you know, maybe for this game, I guess his job, as the same as the frontliners, is just to kill Hell, because that was, I mean, that was the only way they could defeat them in the team fights, and it worked. Like every team fight, Hell was deleted instantly, and that worked for them. Even though they didn't won every of the team fights, like about the 20-minute mark, every team fight started to go well for them, and that it was because Hell had no time to heal their team. So um I guess the heavy dive team comp, like if it's, you know, well done, I guess can be really a problem for this, this high sustain uh team comps. But also the high sustain team comps can also like fight back those heavy dive team comps. It's just they need to be better coordinated, and I didn't saw a good shot calling or a good communication between the guys from God's Bastrop. So if they want to run another team cup like similar to game one, it can work. They just need better communication when team fights come.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they make some adjustments as we switch over right now to picks and bans. Uh, and I guess, Snake, the question is, do you imagine that God's Base Drop will be looking to go back to this hell, or do you think that they're just going to just completely scratch that idea and go for something a little different?
Um, as I saying, like it's good to have a heal in your team. It's not going to be always a bad thing. It's always good that healing. But if they want to have that heal, they need to be careful with to let her survive more. And that is considering that Hastati wouldn't ban her in the first place. But I guess since how the game one went, I guess they're not really focusing the hell a lot. So I don't know. It also depends of how the team come is going to be. Like if they're going to have like a team come around to protect hell, or it's going to be like a last pick. But since the priority that hell has, I don't think she's going to get through the second phase of picks and bans.
Yeah, well, so far we do have an Artemis and a Yamoja being taken away. Two top tier picks for sure right now, at least in the current meta standing. Ario now also taken away, and so Hell still on the table. Tiamat still on the table. Morgan Le Fay. And also Persephone, who we haven't talked about yet. Persephone sort of coming back from her weird stint of kit rework, and then she had this weird glitch, which allowed her to get more farm than she should have been getting. We now, yep, there you go. Hell is now taken off the table, so we won't be seeing that, but that does leave those three mid laners up on the table, even if they ban two of them.
It's weird to me, because they didn't have any problems with the hell in that game, so why ban her? I guess they may be scared that now they will, have a team come around the hell so she can heal more, but I guess we won't see her, so I guess that's exciting.
Yeah, well, we'll get to see somebody else in the mid lane. Odin now taken away, which leaves Morgan Le Fay and Persephone as Tiamat is removed. One of these days, we'll get to see the Dragon Lady play, I swear. But today is not that day, at least so far. And now we're going to see the first pick come in, and it is going to be that Cerberus again.
Another question mark for me, Servers was not terrible at the laning phase. He did quite decent. But the thing is, like, again, the maybe he was too focused on the backline that the hell was getting deleted instantly. Maybe now, depending if he's going to solo or support, creating more space for the team, I guess is the better choice here because the mid laner or the carries for the team were not safe at all in the late game or mid game late game.
Yeah, I think Legionaries were kind of able to run as they would, or as they will, or as they wanted in that back line. We do see Osiris. We haven't talked about Osiris, but Osiris is probably one of the more favored picks right now in jungle, but also, we do see him occasionally pop up in that solo lane. Where do you reckon this Osiris is going?
Um, well, as you said, jungle has been his most preferred role these past few months. But I'm not really a fan of that because He is more like of the tanky, characters. He doesn't really, you can't really build him like a Netherland Cheng, for example, that if you just build like attack speed, he's going to be really good. He needs that extra tankiness. And if you want to, have like a heavy dive team cup as the game one, I don't think Osiris is the best option. I mean, they could have gone with an assassin, the same as Kamazots, or like, I don't know, Tsukuyomi. But Osiris, not a big fan of the jungle, but who knows? He might go to solo as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a flex pick. A little bit more unusual and picks is this Ganesh. Maybe you could share your thoughts with me, Snake, on this Ganesh pick.
Yeah, we haven't seen her or him a lot. And maybe that's because of this sustained meta that we've coming through, that Ganesh hasn't been in the rise, but it's not about support at all, especially considering like the ultimate. It's really good for objectives. So I don't hate the pick, but we need to see how the team of the rest of the comp is going to be, because if you're going to with a Ganesha in the dual lane, you really need like an aggressive hunter.
Yeah, I think that Ganesha's big problem right now would be pressure, and he just gets out pressured by everyone. I think late game he still does very, very well, and he's definitely one of the better peelers on your team. And it's an interesting pick to look for a Ganesh. I think that you're always worried about getting out pressured. And so now you're looking at maybe having to put a little bit more focus with your jungler on that dual lane to make sure that that doesn't happen. They're gonna mix it up with a Ho Yi, and this is a pick. I don't know about you, Snake, that I don't like matched up with this Ganesh. I don't think that their clear is good enough, and I think that it really allows the enemy team to out pressure you. But late game, I think that this combo can actually be very, very good for them.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, are they even going to make it to the
Yeah.
late game to be really impactful? Like, they, I don't know. The early game of them has to be really careful, because uh they're going to get out pressure really quickly, and I don't see them making success into the lane. Maybe the jungle can be more focused to the dual lane to help them, but I don't know. We will see. Instead, for the other team, that's a pick that I would like to see with Ganesh, like the Unheard.
Yeah. I think that Anher and Terra kind of just out pressure Ho Yi. They certainly outclear them, right? And so that makes things a little bit more difficult. I think 1v1 Anher and Ho Yi might be a little bit of a stalemate depending on how you play it. But I think that if you're looking at this on paper at least, right, you definitely favor that Anher Terra combo to sort of win lane. Nemesis. Hello.
Is
It's
it
been,
is this the start of season 8?
yeah, it's
Are
been a
we on
while.
January now? Is this March?
Yeah,
Hello?
I don't know. What do you think about this Nemesis pickup?
I mean, okay. It's just I don't I don't have any comments here, because Nemesis is a assassin we haven't seen in, like I said, like the start of the season. So, and against a Raven that is really like diving and has a lot of damage, especially in the early game. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do here. Yeah, even though that I said like the Osiris was not my preferred jungle, I prefer to see an Osiris jungle instead of an Nemesis.
Yeah, I think Nemesis a weird pickup. I'm excited to see it though because it has been a hot second since we've seen a Nemesis operate in the jungle. And I guess at this point we will throw it over to the cast. Take it away, fellas.
Thank you so much, Dino and Snaked, for those picks and bans. And I got to agree with most of that analysis. This Nemesis coming in is a little bit of a surprise to me, especially after the Osiris was picked near the top of the draft. But I think even outside of the Nemesis, we're definitely seeing some fundamental draft changes from both teams here into game 2.
God's base drop looked to have adjusted things pretty well, at least for my money, and I like what they're bringing to it this time. You have the Scylla that's going to be more of that longer range burst damage to deal with what Chubby Ostrich is able to do on the Raijin, and of course, that ultimate for ultimate interaction typically doesn't favor the Raijin if you can hold out on that I'm a monster a little bit longer. We'll see if the mid lane works out for them a bit better, but just overall, I like what they're bringing as a package, and there is that question mark around sending the Nemesis to the jungle and having the Osiris in the solo lane instead.
Absolutely, and even more question marks potentially around this Nemesis starting build. The Mannequin Scepter, I think I can agree with, but starting out with that tier 1 bow, likely going into that Ichavold, potentially trying to get into some of those trades early. And Nemesis is one of those gods that I think can have success with a couple different build paths. If you want to prioritize burst and really step on people, you're able to do that, but it might be Ganesh in a little bit of trouble here. He is another interesting pick in this game. Haven't seen the Ganesh pulled out in quite a while, possibly due to his lack of lane pressure, but mostly I think due to his lack of engage potential in some of these fights, really more known for his counter engage potential.
It's going to be interesting over there in the duo lane, and you've got to favor God's base drop. Talked about the pressure that they have for themselves, and that's already been a little apparent as we saw the Ganesh get a bit poked out just in an odd spot. Is the elephant for this season so far, and it does bring, of course, that big Dharmic pillars, but that's about the best thing out of the kit you're looking for right now, and there is that potential with the Ho Yi, but I'm also not a huge fan of the Ho Yi. We saw how well Tainzy played on the Rama before. A bit surprising not to see it again.
I tend to agree here, as we do see some fighting over here in this duel lane. We're going to see that explode in just a second. Argent Surge blinking and getting some more damage onto the Ganesh as he looks to fall for first blood, trying to body block some autos, will successfully save his Hunter as Tainzy gets forced out to jump away. But first blood coming a little bit earlier on in this game too. God's base drop on the board once again.
There's a good bit of CC and just control in general in this comp. The Terra, of course, bringing some, but this Ravana that we haven't talked about a lot either does allow that early game facilitation, has some decent CC in the kit as well on the 3, and the ability to immune some damage, though Prodigy going to try to slow down their early game a bit and strip away some of these camps. Could be a blue buff invade getting looked at here by God's base drop, though.
They tried to do that last game and they were successful, but it's actually going to be a red buff invade this time, more focused towards the left side of the map as they do take that one away successfully without Scylla needing even to join the fight. Raijin's going to be disappointed as he jumps over that wall and finds that buff to be gone. But now it will be Nemesis close to this Cerberus here, going to look to try and steal this blue buff away. Low HP and does manage to take it away with a basic attack. We might see if the Cook wants to go in here. Jump maybe waiting off of cooldown. Both members low for the side of Legionary, and he's not slowing down. Wants to continue damaging the enemies here. Waiting on cooldowns to come up, and he will get stunned out here by the tether right there, but looking for the jump in. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to get anything going off of that as the members have now dispersed, but it will be a blue buff steal in trade for a red buff steal across the map.
Surprising to see the Cook jungle it there. It looked like they should have been able to pick it up, but Argent Surge is sitting around the wall, and it looks like for the moment Pittsburgh Adam is not going to be wary of it, but instead going to walk away. And we see pressure still coming out over here in this duo lane for the most part. And the Chiefs
no!
gets the best of Prodigy.
Oh no, it's dying to his own speed buff, and it's gone there on the map. So he picked that one up. And then still, I believe, or no, oh, my bad. My map was bugging out, so it's still available, but it looks like might not be available. Taylor surviving here. She does manage to dash out, but we got to save that clip or something. That you can't be dying to your own speed buff there as Prodigy does manage to finally pick that one up. But we still see him in an okay spot, despite falling for that one death. No XP towards anybody, no gold towards anybody. He's still in the same level as Argent Surge, but it's now Argent Surge in an aggressive position, looking once again for this red buff invade. And Nem dashing away from this, none the wiser. It's Terra also engaging on the left-hand side, trying to get that ultimate in, but not on the same page as her Hunter until he follows up. Tainsy falling again, second blood in the dual lane as well, and it might be third right now. Ganesh in a rough spot managed to dash away from both members of the enemy team right there as they I wasn't able to track if they did get the red buff steal, but they may get Cerberus's life right here, fighting across the map. Both side lanes under attack right now, and it's going to be the Cook falling for the first blood for Legionary as they trade that across the map.
Able to pick it up off of a nice Lord of the Afterlife coming out, and the invade onto the blue. Looks like they themselves want to take a little pressure on this side, and that's going to stop it back there from Argent Surge, trying to walk him back towards the Hunter, but not going to be able to get the stun just yet, and that will allow some Oracle control. Good to see a switch of roles. You want to get this Osiris involved a little bit earlier on, and having the kill going that way in the solo lane, picking up the assist and the blue buff will certainly help out with that.
Osiris and Kukulkan playing very similar roles once we get towards those later game team fights. It was Kukulkan, Pittsburgh Adam on that pick, doing a ton of work in that first game to get towards the backline, get on top of Raham on that Hell pick, and exclude her from the fight in several opportunities and take some cooldowns for his teammates. And Osiris, also a god that loves to be in that front line attacking the enemy backliner. So unique opportunity for Pittsburgh Adam to try and reprise that role. Although a little bit of a safer character here, I would say, on the Scylla. And now that we get a chance to talk about the Scylla, we can talk about maybe this matchup more towards the mid lane and moving away from that Hell, moving away from the healing, potentially more towards this bursty, more ranged character of the Scylla. Now, one team has a very definitive objective secure.
Objective secure, definitely there for them. And not only that, when you pair it with the extra damage going to come out of this ultimate from Terra, there's just a lot of raw potential to change a team fight in a hurry. And the blue buff invade going to be picked up here by God's base drop as they are going to go for it. Lord of the Afterlife expended, but they might have just jumped into the wrong side of town. Damage coming on to Pittsburgh Adam. The ultimate off the mark though, but the clap not going to catch it either, and Raham will finally catch up to them, put down the Osiris, and that's also going to be a Fire Scorpion.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he knew he was jumping into 4 members there, but he'll absolutely get punished for it, as they will take the blue buff and the Fire Scorpion, as you mentioned. It looks like that might get traded out by the Gold Fury Scorpion here. 3 members rotating over towards that from the side of Legionary, and that likely will be the more important one at this stage of the game. That's going to allow the Gold Fury to spawn, and that's where we saw our first couple of fights in the last game. If I recall correctly, the first Gold Fury fight was a little bit messy from both teams. Neither team able to really get it going on, taking out enough members to guarantee that Gold Fury. And instead, the 2 Gold Furies we saw earlier coming from God's base drop were on the opportunity that they found where no members from Legionary were there in time to contest. Do you think they'll be able to find those same spots in this game now that Legionary have been exposed to it a number of times?
I'd like to think that warding will be a little bit better from them, not to set up those potentials just because of the impact that it can have. Of course, we know that the longer the game goes on, the more that golden XP from the Gold Fury is going to ramp up. And while having trade outs like the Pyromancer available for you, the later it gets, you're not going to want to take that as much, just having to relegate to that, and especially when you get these Onis and things online.
Well, looks like there will be a little bit of a scuffle here. Terra using one of those dashes to get back away towards his team as Ganesh takes a little bit of poke, but 4 members here from God's base drop to secure the Oracles, which they did not have the last time they took this first Gold Fury back in game 1. So a nice change from them there and a nice prioritization to see 4 members come over for that. They're clearly looking to set up for this objective. They clearly value it highly, and I think that's the right move.
Have the pressure out of this on her onto this Ho Yi, so certainly want to see that, and a fantastic job there of the Cook to take that one away from them. It makes it a little bit easier to start to veer towards this left side, especially if you're going to pick up a kill, and Raham notches this name is longer for themselves, and also going to put the damage onto the Raijin to remind them that lazy backing might not be what you want to do.
Yeah, though they do pick up the Ganesh kill, but now they're lacking that large ultimate ability secure from Scylla, although the Crush is still definitely a menace when it comes to securing those objectives. So not in a bad spot quite yet, although it might be Terra chased out of the enemy jungle here, but in no real danger. They do get that kill on the Ganesh, and he stayed out a little bit too long at a low health bar, but they weren't able to make anything happen for it. Scylla hasn't gotten a chance to back yet. She's still at a low mana bar now, and it might actually be Legionary in a better spot to take some advantage here when the Scylla is forced to back shortly because of that low mana bar with now Raijin coming back to base. But now Nem choosing to back, looks like both teams are going to delay a little bit longer.
Something to keep an eye on is that despite 3 more kills going the way of God's base drop, we don't have that large of a gold gap just yet. 1,000 being the difference, and that partially because none of the objectives have come down off the map. We also have all our towers as well, so a lot of swinging that can certainly happen if you're able to pick up a gold. Couple T1s, as that's going to make a big difference, but Pyromancer being looked at by Legionary here.
Pyromancer being picked up, dropped down to half HP. Argent Surge in the area. We'll see if he engages on this, and he does. Not able to steal it, but able to get some damage off initially. Good taunt back in from Tycho Drums. Will lose him his life, though, as Prodigy picks up that kill. But it's going to be Terra picking up a triple kill with the ultimate and the root combo. No damage from anybody else outside of Scylla and Ravana. Just that triple kill secure from Terra, and it might be the Quadra, unofficial Quadra, if he's able to find this Osiris, but it looks like Scylla may be the closest one able to find this. If they continue to chase, they won't. They'll allow him to back right here, it looks like, but what a crazy play out of Retrofade.
Clap comes in absolutely massive for them there, and we've seen the power of the Terra ult time and time again. Going to see it again there. The burst just layers on, and that's really the attraction of this god. But we see Tainsy jumping in, trying to find the stun for themselves onto Zeku, and now putting a little bit of pressure onto this Anhur, who looked like they had the better of the matchup early on, and that will look like it's going to force a back coming out.
Yeah, Anhur will return to base as Cerberus steals that 3rd consecutive blue buff in a row now. Gold Fury still yet to be taken, but it's God's base drop still coming up on top of several of these engagements. That was very similar to what we saw in Game 1. The early half of the game was almost dominated, for lack of a better word, from God's base drop, and yet again on the Gold Fury with nobody in range from Legionary, but it may be Raijin going to come in just in time. Half HP. They do have the Dharmic Pillars as well to contest, but God's base drop, good use of that secure to guarantee that objective, and it looks like Cerberus may try and force an engage of his own, taking out a kill in the 1v2 over here on the solo lane, and Ganesh going to fall as well. 2 kills across the map as well as the Gold Fury. God's base drop on a tear.
It was about as catastrophic as it can for Legionnaire, and might get even worse if they look towards Tainsy, but instead going to back off and give this Ho Yi some space. You're not able to pick up the kill on the rotation to solo lane, and that certainly feels bad. Not only that, you give up a kill yourself. The Cook just outplaying a little bit better under this tower, and that's going to push the lead up a little bit for themselves now, starting to look at 4K, and 4K at 13 minutes does give you a nice little bit of a cushion to work with.
No, absolutely. That lead is going to be definitely more impactful at 13 minutes than it is at 25 minutes, which is where we saw that 4K lead just in the last game. But not quite early enough, or not quite late enough, excuse me, for this Fire Giant to be looked at. So we're going to see a little bit of posturing for the foreseeable future as both teams continue to be a little bit hesitant to really start these engagements outside of maybe the dual lane. We've seen a lot of fighting over here between the two ADCs, even if it hasn't come to deaths quite yet. Forcing the backset of each other, and we'll take a quick look at the builds right here. Looks like Hu Yi choosing to go into crit, whereas Anhur will elect to not go that route, but we'll get a chance to talk about that in a second, as Ganesh just barely getting away from that damage, all of it secured on him early from the Scylla. Looks like Terra's going to try and finish this one off. pops the ultimate, but not able to find that last hit onto Ganesh. It will still be 4 members from both teams over here towards the right side. Ganesh back, so it'll turn into a 4v3, but Terra lacking the ultimate. Great root combo from the Scylla, takes down 1 member instantly. Prodigy falling early on in this fight, and Cerberus tries to follow up, but Legionary know that's their cue to retreat. Raijin maybe not getting the memo, stepping a little bit back up, but not into danger quite yet. That was just the damage that Silicon put out. I mean, that was a great display.
Legionary had a bit of a one-up there with all the ultimates expended early on and just cannot find a way to clear the Scylla and get in, and that's part of the difficulties of Scylla, sometimes being taunting into it whenever you think about it, but just the raw ability to even chunk takes whenever they start to get online. And level 14, they're certainly online at this point, just absolutely decimating these waves, these tanks. It's going to be tough for Legionnaire to fight into it, and so far they have not been able to get these clean engages that we would like to see out of them. Not had Pittsburgh Atom really in these fights as much as you would want on the back line. The Nemesis hasn't found its way home only but twice so far, and those were not necessarily as grouped up in the team fights as you would like to see, and unfortunately this Ganesh has just been easy pickings.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Adam has been unable to impact any of these fights across the map, and has even been forced out of his lane a little bit here. The last couple blue buffs being taken from him, now at a 2-level deficit in this solo lane. Very counterintuitive to what, or not counterintuitive, very opposite, I guess, of what he was experiencing last game from ahead on the Cucullin. So we'll see if he's able to make it as much of an impact once it gets to these real team fight stages, as 2 members do back right there. We'll see if God's base drop identify that and able to look at the Pyromancers. That has just respawned, but still will choose to back as well. So another lull on the map we'll get. And I can return to the Hunter builds, where I was going to mention Hu Yi going into crit and on her not going into crit. But now Hu Yi has sold that tier 1 item going into Executioner, and on her is going into crit. So I'll ask you the same question with flipped sides. Where do you think of these Hunter builds?
The Hoki build is a little interesting for me, getting this Xe. Likely just wants to deal with the tanks a little bit better, but typically we're seeing the Aussie and things picked up to give you a little bit better boxability if you are going to go into that tree. So surprising, considering you talked about it earlier, we saw a lot of boxing out of that lane, and Hoki is a god that's pretty good at it, but talking about boxing, Terra wants to get a fight started here.
Wants to try and get an engage on some members. We see 4v4 once again over on this right side of the map, as this Pyromancer has respawned, as we mentioned, so it will be the objective in the eyes of God's Space Drop. And look how good of a job Cerberus is doing on that zone, preventing 3 members from coming in right now. This Pyromancer looking like a free objective unless Osiris can be the one to get involved, but Cerberus hitting a 2-man ultimate, nobody there to follow up, and it's going to be Terra maybe in some trouble behind the lines. Scylla into I'm a Monster, getting a ton of damage onto Ganesh, but it might be Osiris into the Lord of the Afterlife now with no movement abilities, trying to escape. Fantastic crush coming out, crushing Prodigy's hopes to survive, and it looks like it will be Pittsburgh Atom falling for that second kill. Raijin forced into the dash, but it might be Ganesh forced into the dash as well. Both of them escaping with their lives, but continuous large portions of damage coming out of this Scylla.
Originally, Legionary are on the right track, starting to put some pressure onto Rayum, who has been able to free cast and has been the root of a lot of problems, as we saw there. Another fantastic crush going to pick up a kill, but it just doesn't work out. When a Cerberus is able to zone out 3 members, you're going to have a hard time getting any additional carry damage out to make that job just a little bit easier and strip away some of these relics on these carries. So far, Scylla's able to hold on to at least 1 at the end of every engagement, and of course, with that ultimate in the dash, has been pretty safe for the most part.
Yeah, and we will see some more action over here on the left side of the map. Once again, God's Base Drop picking up this Gold Fury when nobody's around. The closest one is Tainsy, and once again, great zoning coming out of Argent Surge, forcing him to not be able to step up there, and it just takes 2 members to take down that Gold Fury early. God's Base Drop has been consistently focused around these objectives and around finding the right moments to pull them and secure them for their team, and so far they've been extremely successful towards the Gold Fury.
Cold Fury has been a really nice spot for them, and it's contributed to this lead that they've been able to take for themselves. Would like them at this 19-minute to start looking towards this Fire Giant. You have a lead, a kill lead, and overall just an XP lead in your favor. We saw how well the Cook has been able to zone out. If you can channel that around the Fire Giant, it looks to be a pretty easy one with the Scylla there to confirm it.
I will talk briefly about how that crit has baited a couple spectral armors, or almost spectral armors, as we see that tier 2 breastplate out of Argent Surge on the Ravana, and that spectral built early on for the Cook. So those items get baited out despite no crit for Huyi coming online, but it's actually a Fire Giant being pulled by God's base drop, and they're trying to do their same old tricks. Nobody's in the area quite yet, but Raijin seems aware of it, and Osiris definitely is. Down to half HP. Scylla holding that Ima monster, waiting for the secure, throwing it out, able to secure the Fire Giant early, but the fight is on. Lord of the Afterlife over the wall, forces Scylla into the dash, able to escape right now, and it might be Pittsburgh Adam falling instead. 1 kill to 0 so far, and the Fire Giant going the way of the side of God's base drop, but they want to keep chasing, forcing down this right-hand side. They have the Oni waves right now, not able to clear it before Cerberus engages an Argent Surge right behind him, or excuse me, Terra right behind him, getting the root off, forcing the dash out of Raijin, and it's going to be this tier 2 tower now being taken from Legionary, but it's hesitate to go any more past this. Looks like they will back up if they choose to, but it's still an advantage over here as we see Argent Surge taking on Tansy over in the left lane. They're winning on all aspects of the map right now, and they want to keep going. Ziku gonna find it, kill with his ultimate right there on to the Ganesh, and it will be this Phoenix that's the next one under target. Raijin unable to make an impact right there, and just a huge swing. They were already in the lead, but what a positive series of events from God's base drop.
Able to absolutely grip the steering wheel, and it doesn't look like they're going to put it down anytime soon. Surprising though that we saw Tansy take the 1v1 with Argent Surge. The Fire Giant going to make it difficult to deal with this Ravana, and they're able to put them down on the left side of the map. And around that Fire Giant just can't work out well when you're trying to out-secure a Scylla, and there was a little room for error there with a bit of a late secure coming out from Rayum. Just didn't work out in the favor of Legionnaire, and losing Pittsburgh Adam on the backside doesn't help the situation at all.
Yeah, they lose a tier 2 tower in mid, a tier 2 tower, and a Phoenix in right. Objective after objective after objective right now for God's base drop, and they're looking to go even further, picking up the Draugr, picking up this tier 1 tower sooner rather than later, and will likely continue to push this tier 2 tower down. So immediately, within the span of a couple minutes, no static objectives left for the side of Legionary outside of those 2 Phoenixes if they manage to get this tier 2 tower, but it doesn't look like Legionary are going to be putting up a defense. They do have quite a bit of time left on this Fire Giant. They're going to choose to back up instead and spend this gold they have in their pockets.
Playing it a little bit safer, though, I think there is certainly some potential to press down and at least see what you can get out of the Phoenix push, simply because you have all this time. If it doesn't work out the first time, maybe you bait out some relics or you pick up some ultimates for yourself, you back, spin, come back, and it might even look a little bit better for you there. Instead, though, looks like they just want to spend that money. The Pyromancer will be coming up, could be looked at, and of course, we still have the mid left Phoenix and plenty of time for them to march that way.
Yeah, Fire Giant will still be on there for at least another minute and a half as they will choose which lane to go towards. Both the left and mid Phoenixes still being on the map as they'll take their time cleaning up some of the buffs right now, getting that attack speed buff on Onter, that damage buff onto Scylla just for that extra ability damage in these fights. Looks like she may back, so maybe they won't push. Looks like Argent Surge up in the mid lane. Scylla won't be here for this push immediately in the left lane. Fire Giant will likely fall off before they get the chance to go towards this siege officially on the Phoenix. So unless someone gives up their life, I don't expect to see this as a huge dedicated push here, but I may be proven wrong.
Working their way down the left side a little bit now, and God's base drop have a large gold lead. Would really like to see them push this a little bit more. Some teams start to bog down, and that can be difficult when you allow the enemy team any chances to get back into it. Now, grouped up around this Phoenix, it looks like they're going to wait on the Scylla, who is finally here. Ravana potentially going to split push in the mid lane and should be able to draw at least some attention as Nemesis heads over to clear.
And it will be Cerberus blinking in, or Terra blinking in, getting that ultimate onto 4 members of the enemy team. Cerberus does pull a member back, but not before Osiris puts himself onto the backline. Both carries in front of him, but he is not able to put enough damage in to prevent himself from running away. And it will be the Hui ult expended in the front line, but no members have died yet. Prodigy getting a little bit of damage onto the backline, and that Terra ult was expended, but the Phoenix unable to be taken at the moment, down to about half HP. It looks like their Fire Giant fell off mid-Phoenix push right there, and they weren't able to make the best of it.
Not able to coordinate that well enough, and they had plenty of time early on, but just stalled out. And whenever you lose that Fire Giant, especially when your HP bars are that low, you don't want to commit to it. The Hoyi ult does a good enough job of zoning, though Primal Fury will fall down, and that will open up a little bit easier of a Fire Giant for themselves. However, Legionary are going to have this Phoenix and can look to put up a congestion around this pit.
And will be 5 members here from Legionary. Only Cerberus here to defend initially, as the Fire Giant is blinking on the map. God's Base Drop will absolutely be here to contend in time, though maybe not this Pyromancer. Likely will get taken for free from God's Base Drop, and they does get them taken from him, but it opens up an engage for the God on the side, trying to get some ultimate members in. Will pull back Ganesh, and he will fall initially. Hui forced to jump over the wall. Raijin in a little bit of a rough spot as well, running away, and Osiris running away as well on the opposite side of the map. Members split right now for Legionary, but likely will be forced to back unless he wants to make a sneaky play coming in on this Fire Giant. Scylla still has the ultimate, and Tainzy gets taken out by Argent Surge, and Cerberus zoning in the backline. They'll continue to zone, but still nobody knows about the Osiris, and he'll choose to back instead. But it might be Ravana trying to finish off this kill, but he might be the one in trouble now. Prodigy trying to finish off, but he gets traded instead. Not ready for the members to join him after the Fire Giant, as they're going to look at this weakened Phoenix.
Interesting call there. Opens up the Phoenix, and this should go down pretty easily for them, as they are 5 members strong. And Fire Giant healing on top of Terra is enough for them to hang out in this mid lane and start to look for it this time. They do have timers on Prodigy, of course, falling down, as well as Tainzy, who lost the 1v1 scenario. It looked like to be a 1v1 at least to Tainzy. Or sorry, Argent Surge. Don't want to give the credit entirely to Argent Surge until we know. You know how people are about their 1v1s. But left Phoenix instead going to be the contention point.
And they do have the Fire Giant now. No risk of it falling off mid-siege, as doesn't look like Legionary will be in position to full-on defend this. Members still spawning. Prodigy up soon. Argent Surge forced to ult over the wall, but Chubby Ostrich will fall first. Hui forced into the jump, now be behind the enemy team, and still may want to get in on this, but Zeku gets in on it first, gets the double kill onto the support, and it might be Osiris now going to be the target for the triple kill. Great route, they're going to give it to him. Triple kill coming out for Zeku, looking to finish it off with the Titan. 4 members strong on his team, 5 members all at the Titan area. They engage onto the backline. Zeku gets the Quadra, looking for the Penna to finish off this game, but the Titan might be the final target instead. They take a strong game 2. We're going to a game 3.
God's Base Drop look incredible in this game too, and we wanted them to switch things around a bit in the draft, and they absolutely answered the call there. The carries did just about as much as you can ask for it, and of course, whenever your support is able to notch 3, 0, and 15 for their line, things are looking up and looking up in a big way for them. Really like the comp coming out, the engage, the decisions, and we'll see what game 3 looks like, but that's a ton of momentum going in.
Yeah, 2 kills to 23 kills. Difference there on the side between these two teams. Game 2 looked a lot more lopsided than game 1, but we'll see if they can bounce back in game number 3 when we come back on the cast. For now, we'll throw it back to the desk to break down that game 2.
Thanks, guys. Dinosaur once again joined by Snake. Snake, I think that game went fairly better for God's Base Drop.
Yeah, and it was all draft wise. But again, I don't know what was going through Hastati's head when they changed the draft like so drastically. And they changed it in a worse way, like picks that are not as good as others. And I guess that was it for them, because everything that could have gone wrong for those picks specifically went wrong. So unfortunate, but maybe they will recover in game 3.
Yeah, I think it was really weird seeing them in game one have so much success on that high pressure comp, and then sort of draft in the other direction, and I think it's pretty fair to say that it didn't work out very well for them. I think that there were certainly, it's not all that they wrongly picked. I think that God's Base dropped had a fantastic performance. I think the Scylla looked really, really good for them, and I think almost sneakily, right? That and her man was doing some real work. Ended up being 9-0, and I think that worked out well for them as well. And you saw that they sort of started the game off on the right foot, and it seemed like they could do no wrong.
Yeah, that dual lane now really worked out. But again, that's basically because the other dual lane was so weak and they outpressured them so easily that it was the easiest early game that I've seen in a while. So, but of course, that, you know, if you are doing that is because you also have like the skills to get there, especially in the early game. So, good work for them. And I really, um, I can, I'm really expecting what are they going to bring in game 3.
Yeah, I would expect them to maybe look more towards that higher pressure comp that they ran, something similar to the comp that they ran in game one. That certainly looked very, very good for them. The question mark for me is, you know, do they look to ban out maybe some of those picks they saw God's base drop fall out in game two? If so, does God's base drop maybe look to pick up that hell again? I mean, it just seemed like the game two comp was really, really working for them, and I don't know how very good, obviously in the meta, but if you're on Gad's base drop, Snaked, are you looking to maybe pick up that hell or just run it back?
Um, I mean, it didn't work for them in game 1, but it was all because of positioning and, bad communication. But I guess they will be okay if they do it with a proper team comp.
Yeah, I think that I think that the hell is a very big question mark. I honestly I like the ski enough and on her that I'd like to see him just run that back line once again, but we will get to see as we will transition here to picks and bans. There we are. And so we talked about that. I think, I mean, both teams have seemed pretty content on keeping mostly the similar bans, Snakes. Do you expect the same thing?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a really surprise for the bans. I guess uh in the both games the bans went really similar. So I expected, the Artemis, the Tiamats, maybe the Hell, um and the Arctio too. So I don't know if like anything from the last game is going to be banned because, Hastati's comp was not really that good. So maybe they will try to have them some good gods for the comp.
They're saying we don't think we're going to see a team out here. I'll take that as a no, as we see the Terra being removed from the playing field. How do you feel about this ban, Snaked?
I guess it's okay. The pressure that can get, especially in the dual lane, is really good, and the sustain from team fights is also good. So, obviously, in game 1 didn't work as they expected, but is for no reason a bad ban.
Yeah, I think Legionary kind of didn't make the most use out of that pick. God's base drop certainly did. I mean, Terra got that disgusting triple kill, as we saw. That was really impressive amongst just a lot of other good plays, so I think that maybe banning that is a good idea. However, that does leave some more valuable picks on the table, especially when we look at those very, very strong mid laners, and they are in abundance this season. None of them taken away so far. And Cerberus is the third pick. Surely God's Base Drop banned the Tiamat, but that kind of allows some other picks.
Yeah. Um. I mean, yeah, the Tiamat got banned, but then we have Hell maybe up there. Raijin, has been prioritized quite good is on this set especially too, so maybe they will pick that up. Now they don't have the server, so no anti-heal, god counter, but they still have the Odin. I was about to say that Odin still open, so they will take that.
Yeah, Odin, a great pickup. I think we talked about it. Not only the anti-heal in his kit, but just his ability to sort of zone and make unfair team fights happen, right? You can kind of cage somebody in or you can cage people out, and that is pretty big. Also, not banned this time around was Yamoja, and obviously God's Base Drop opt to pick up the Yamoja support. I mean, Snake, is Yamoja just as good as she's always been? Do you feel like she's maybe fallen off a little bit in this past patch? Where do you feel Yamoja stands meta wise?
I mean, maybe she's not the first priority pick that she used to be, especially, like those first ban, first pick situations. But she's still up there, like the sustain, because we're in a meta sustain. The ultimate on the team fights is really, game changing. So not really surprised to see her pick it up.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to give it to the side of Legionari when they already have Odin, because an Odin Cage and a Yamoja River's Rebuke, not the funnest thing to play into. However, they do give up Khepri and Morgan Le Fay, and Morgan Le Fay, highly valued currently in the meta. And God's Bait Drop, instead of picking up the Morgan, did opt to pick up Raijin. And how do you feel about that trade-off?
Mm, I mean, we know what Morgan Le Fay can do. This the a lot of damage when she get those items online. But Regin is still up there, and I think that maybe for the comp they can get really good combos of ultimates, especially with the Yamoya ult and the Regin ult. So I don't hate in this actually, but obviously so far we have a lot of good picks in both drafts. So I'm really excited to see how they're gonna get now.
Yeah, you talked about that combo. Another good combo, though, is this Morgan and this Khepri. Morgan's sort of one weakness is that she's susceptible to dives, right? And it's a little harder to dive her when she has a second life in the Scarab's Blessing. So we'll see if that's maybe a priority. Of course, you can always look to maybe use that Scarab's Blessing more on an engage. Send your jungler in there, kind of bring him back in the team fight, do his damage, or you can even use it on a carry or something. There's a lot of options, I think, and I think that we're seeing Khepri played for that reason, and that he's just that Scarab's Blessing is very, very useful. On top of that, he's got probably one of the best single target CC kits in the game, right?
Yeah, and seeing the bans now, I guess now they're worried about the heavy dive comps we've seen. Uh, the Fenrir got banned, now the Kukulan, which has really kind of surprising to me. I guess that's because of game one. But now we're seeing a circuit hover, and that I mean, she's definitely going to jungle, but I guess that's really good, especially to help out the mid lane, which is going to be rough against that Morgan.
Yeah, I think when I see Morgan, I almost my brain sort of turns immediately towards that Circuit right there, and so I'm not too surprised to see them opt for Serket. Obviously, I think that's a very good counter to Morgan. She's got high burst and anti-heal built in the kit, and that kind of makes Morgan's ultimate a little less useful. And we see Heim, the everlasting Heim dollar, and it looks like they're going for that Ravana pick.
Ravana pick worked really well last game. I don't know if it was because it was against a nemesis, but um, uh, if it worked, like I don't see why not it will work here. And the Heimdall, I really like that pick, even though he's not like the best hunter right now. I think the ultimate has a lot of value, especially when you have like a circuit in your face. You just disappear her from a few seconds from the team fight, and you're safe.
Yeah, I think Heim right now definitely. I won't say the safest, right? Because Jing Wei is still in the game, but as far as like super impressive damage wise, kind of top tier gods, Heim is definitely the safest of maybe the top 5 hunters, you could say. And I really like seeing him played. I think this Kabrakan pickup is a little interesting. For me, I think it's going to do a good job of maybe keeping that Morgan, but locked down. But I think that they have a lot of escapes outside of that Kabrakan ult. So I guess we'll see how that fares.
Yeah, the Cabrakan, we've seen him played in the solo lane, uh, but I'm not really a big fan, especially against Odin, so we'll see. Either way, I think both teams have a really good draft. Nothing compare like the game to draft. Like they were really like uneven, so I guess it's a good way to close out this set.
Yeah. All right, well, 2 teams will enter. Only one will leave the victor as we throw it down to the cast. Take it away, Frog and Bash.
Thank you so much, Bastion and Snaked, as we jump into game number 3 here. Honestly, a dominating fashion we saw in game number 2. Game 1 was a little bit back and forth. We saw God's base drop have some success in the early game, Legionary battling back towards the mid game, and in the game 2 we saw God's base drop have that same success early, but finally able to transition it towards that win in game number 2. And we'll see if they're able to take the set here in game number 3, or if Legionary finally have found the composition to fight back. A number of comp changes from both teams, and the thing that strikes out to me is yet again this mid lane swap. We've still got a Raijin in the game, it's just on the other side, but now Morgan Le Fay being her first play of the day. Popular god we've seen in several of the metas right now, near the top. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, Morgan can certainly have a lot of damage output, and that's really what a lot of people like from her, is just the ability to damage. That ultimate has a CC immunity, of course, and there is some innate peel. We talk about the difficulties that she has without having the dash and maybe all the movement speed that you might like on the god, but does have good self-peel with targets that are on top. So it's going to be up to them to play that one out pretty well, but pressure already going to be in dual lane as this Khepri is looking to put it onto Yemoja.
Yemoja does take a little bit of poke here, not enough to put her down to below stepping up distance here, as they will step back up. Rama trying to get some damage onto this wave, forced to roll away, is still a little bit of damage forced both ways. Same thing in mid, as we see some damage forced onto both of the junglers here, but not enough to force anybody into some serious spots. But it might be Yemoja now in a rough spot. Low health bars, rooted here between a rock and a hard place, but it's Khepri instead being basic attacked the entire time from the Rama, and it's now Heim potentially in a good spot for the second blood, but able to get out with his life. Fighting here in the dual lane continued, and it's God's base drop finding the first blood for the 3rd game in a row.
A misstep there, being stuck on the carry is never going to feel good for the hug bug there, and that allows the pressure to go back the way of God's base drop, who have this Yemoja pickup, of course, to give them some sustain. We've seen what the Rom can do in the hands of Tainzy. We'll see if Zeku can make it a pick of their own. Now, talking about interesting picks in this game, of course, we do have the Odin and the Kabrakan coming through, and for my money, that's going to be where a lot of this contention comes. If you can get a big Odin ultimate, that can change a lot. But Gank coming out.
Blink in from Argent Surge, able to clean up Tainty quickly on in the engagement. It looks like Longer will fall as well, as we see yet another fall over towards the solo lane. This Sabrakan Cook having some success in the 1v2 will fall eventually, but able to take out his counterpart in Pittsburgh Adam. So 3 kills towards God's base drop and 1 cleanup kill from Legionary, but still looking strong in both side lanes.
And the Cook might have heard a little something there. Didn't like that I was talking about the Odin. The other piece of that conversation is this Kabrakan and what it's able to do. If you can find some big ultimates, you can limit the escapability from this Heim, as well as the Morgan having those stationary characters. Well, Kabrakan does really well into them, and if we can see those clean engages, that could be a big part of this winning side for God's base drop. And Serket, of course, with all the CC that is in that kit, can make it even harder to get away in the lockdown.
Now 2 heavy walls coming out from 2 different sides here, but it might be Heim actually caught between one of those walls. Is not available quite yet, but his health bar getting pretty low down here. Both members of both lanes at level 4, so no ultimates available quite yet. But I was mentioning those Yemoja walls have the potential to come out similar to the Kabrakan walls, but it's now Morgan rotating in to potentially turn this around. Another kill goes the way of Legionary. Morgan securing that one as she enters into the ultimate to try and finish off this kill onto the Yemoja. Root coming in, does not hit the mark, and the last ability needs to hit the Abduct, does secure that kill for Tainsy. 2 on the board, lots of action in this duel lane early.
Their rotation going to be a big one to let some pressure come back through. Legionary even things out just a little bit, but Raijin going to be around this purple buff, doesn't want to give it up for free and should be able to secure that one. Ultimate going to be used as well, as they want to bring the bug back to them, but a rotation coming back through. Serket might have found Morgan on the backside. The ultimate going to be used, a dash a little bit better, but Argent Surge will get credit for the kill as Chubby Ostrich goes down.
That's the second time Argent Surge has done a great job finding his way behind members of the enemy team, getting that CC on, able to use the ultimate right there, use the CC to secure those early kills in the dual lane. But it's been a constant battle between him and Prodigy on these picks. We've seen Argent Surge perhaps be the more gank-heavy member of this jungle duo, but we've seen consistent camp steals from Prodigy and from his teammates. Pittsburgh Adam and him now looking for this blue buff. Serket can jump in if she chooses, but she won't put herself in that much danger, just doing some damage on the leave to Prodigy. But they will get that successful blue buff invade, and that's a nice start to this lane for Pittsburgh Adam after falling early. He was the one getting invaded for the majority of last game, so nice to get his own invades started up. We'll see if those can continue.
Creative use of the cage there does get them out that little bit of advantage, and Kabrakan's going to have to be a little more wary about this mana usage. A god that can burn through it quite a lot with those trimmers, so that does layer on a little bit of difficulty here. Now, we talked about rotations, and Argent Surge has really been on the lead of it, has had to kind of level out that difference coming out. This Morgan, not typically a god that we see a ton of rotations out, but Chubby Ostrich has been very active in the early game, and that's created some advantages for the team.
Now rotated over to that dual lane twice at this point, securing 1 kill, or 2 kills rather, over there, helping with that. And it's now Argent Surge securing his own speed buff. Wasn't able to steal that one, or Prodigy wasn't able to steal that one away, but still 5 minutes into the game, and only the Fire Giant, no Scorpions have fallen on this side of the map. Previously, we've seen these Scorpions fall at relatively early portions of the game, as especially God's base drop has tried to focus themselves around that early Gold Fury, but it's now Yemoja in a little bit of trouble. Ultimate up down onto the Yemoja, and it's Heim to Lear ultimate trying to come out, but not on the mark. They're trapped in between the Riptide, and that does allow Yemoja to escape. 2 ultimates expended, now a third from Rama, trying to get that last amount of damage in, but those minions won't secure the kill onto Tainsy. But this cage will secure the kill onto Pittsburgh Adam. He caged himself in, and Kabrakan made it even smaller. So many walls between these two teams, and it spells Pittsburgh Adam's doom right there.
Bit of an early ultimate coming out of the Rav there. Might want to hold on to that for the walls coming out of the Emoji. Emoji sees it, uses that to their advantage. Is looking, however, for another kill and just cannot pick it up. But going back over to the solo lane, we talked about kind of what that dynamic looks like. And Kabrakan As much as any god loves this Vamp Shroud and this Tyrannical Plate, just provides so much tankiness into these physical gods. And still that damage going to be on the plate there as we saw the ultimate come through and secure that one for him.
And we see a stark contrast between games right here, right? There's a ton of action so far. In this game, up to the 7-minute point, that Gold Fury Scorpion does get taken on that side, but it might be Pittsburgh Adam able to fall again. Biff pops the beads right there, able to get away from the Circuit ultimate, but it will eventually finish off the kill. While that was happening, we saw a solo kill, or perhaps Kepri helped out a little bit there. Raijin falling in the mid lane, so a trade 1-for-1 across the map, but that's the third time Pittsburgh Adam has fallen in recent memory, despite that early blue buff invade not having a good time of this lane.
No, it's been a little bit difficult, and typically we see more safety coming out for Odin's in general because you do have that cage, you have the shield safety, but Pittsburgh has been a little too aggressive, the positioning not working out for them so far. The trade out, though, going to come through, but Rayam has, with these rotations, notched themselves a lead despite falling early on. Something to keep an eye on as a 1v1 breaks out.
Zeku trying to put the damage down onto TameZ, forced out into the ultimate, but Ram is now in the air looking for those shots and does hit the first two. Third not needed to secure that kill as TameZ falls in the solo matchup, but more damage coming out in mid. Argent may be in a rough spot. Riptide coming out forces two members to stay in the area. Morgan as well, local. 3v3 here. Argent Surge forced to jump away, followed by the Raijin dash, but Yamoja not able to have a dash to help out, and it's now Argent Surge putting in some serious damage here, but it will be Prodigy falling first. Zeku now has joined the fight. Argent getting the second kill there. The name is longer, falling for that as well, and it will be the mid laner now in the most trouble here towards the end of the fight, and that will be the Gold Fury for God's Base Drop.
Should be really easy for them so far, and that was a great fight there. The Umoja wall's not quite the placing that you would love to see from it, but it works out all the same. The sustain coming through, and another questionable ult there for Ravana, just not able to get the timing down the way they would like to. Argent Surge comes in and just uses their utility better, and that's kind of the name of the game, but another 1v1 going to break out in the solo lane.
He used that jump to secure some kills on the minion, so he doesn't have it to escape right now. Tons of damage being exchanged, but it might be the Odin. Shield gets up, and Kabrakan is low as well if he wants to try and trade this out, but he'll just use it to survive. The Cook definitely getting the advantage here in these fights so far. Prodigy not choosing to go in on him, although the Cook may be looking for some sort of follow-up engage if he can find it. A little bit forced up in the late, and Prodigy chooses to turn around, looking towards his soul lane. And Argent Surge may be able to loop in on the backline. Blink in from Prodigy, trying to get this damage onto the Kraken and Cajun as well. But now Argent Surge has joined the fight, able to get that ultimate off onto the Odin. He will end up falling for sure, and it's a double kill for Argent Surge. Poison spreads, tons of damage coming out of the Cook. Amazing turnaround for God's Base Drop.
Played fantastically by Surge there, gets the ultimate on the low target. That means when the kill drops, of course, that poison spreads, and it's just working out really well for this Circuit on the timing, the positioning, and 6-0-3 going to be the stat line for them as we see some camps coming down. But God's Base Drop have opened up a nice lead for themselves and would like to see them start to push this one a little bit harder. Pyromancer available for them if they so choose.
Absolutely. God's Base Drop off to a fantastic start here in game number 3. Looking akin similar to game number 2 as their dominance continues. But Riptide now, an engagement coming out of them once again. Riptide forcing Morgan Le Fay to stay outside of her tower. Does get the Kepri ultimate, and he's looking to block some abilities right now. But he might be the one in trouble. Forced back a little bit. Now Prodigy trying to trade out on these kills, getting some of the damage in the up-down, but now forced to run away yet again. Damage split between 3 members of Legionary will result in no one falling, but it looked like God's Base Drop still come out ahead in that engagement. We'll get some damage here on this tier 1 tower.
They're choosing to get the backs off instead, but having this Yamoja has kind of changed things around with them being able to stick around longer. After the engagements, the healing, of course, and a great ultimate out of Retrofade. Looked like it should have set it up, but you hit the nail on the head. The target selection not quite the best for them. Should have been able to secure the Morgan, but able to slip out at the end. Now, something we do have to talk about, of course, is this pickup of the Phantom, and understandably picking it up, but it does feel good for God's base drop to know that the Khepri is forced into that and can't pick up something more beneficial whenever you look at the Sunders we've seen so often, or even the Frenzies if you want to get that extra damage online.
He will have that option in the second relic slot, and we'll see what he elects to go for there. We do see the Bracer coming out of the Yamoja, and the Horrific actually coming out of Kabrakan, as well as the Blink, basically a requirement on that character. But Yamoja still has the opportunity to go into that Phantom as well, as we may see it from both teams here, both having formidable walls on their side. But we did see some beads get burned in that mid lane fight, if I'm not mistaken. Turns out I am mistaken, as it was just the Phantom, but it might be Legionary who are mistaken, not here for this Pyromancer, and yet another objective snuck off the map for God's base drop. It just seems like the vision from Legionary has been seriously lacking around these objectives over the past 3 games.
God's base drop. Their bread and butter so far has been picking up on these warding mistakes, so we could see a T1 trading out a little bit, some damage coming onto that, and God's base drop's ADC will have to back up in the mid lane. Yamoja in a little bit of trouble themselves, but it should be able to walk out. Still hard to lock her down with those 3s available to her.
Now, she won't take a serious amount of damage here. Raijin does get the back off, as does several other members of his team. There's no objectives on the map quite yet outside of the Fire Giant, which a little bit too early in the game to be looking at that. But Gold Fury will be up in about a minute and a half here as it ticks over to that 3/4 done. The Jogger being done here should be secured by Tansy on this Heimdallr, but it will be the Gold Fury as the serious engagement, or serious objective rather, that God's base drop and Legionary should be focused on for this next team fight. Some damage exchanged onto Khepri, but now we have all 5 members over here waiting for this objective to respawn, and Odin's not here quite yet. This may just be a dominant fight from God's base drop if they get everything they want.
Looks like the Odin going for the blue buff instead, and with that Primal Fury, they do have advanced positioning around it. We'll see if they're able to take advantage of it. Starting to work back that way is this Legionary team just a little bit around this red buff. Odin, however, still not rotating, and Primal picked up.
Yeah, Odin will not be joining this fight. Argent Surge trying to do a little bit of zoning along with the Cook, and they will keep them out for the time being, but he gets very low, able to escape at the back end of it, and the Cook picks it up and continues the zoning fight. They do secure the Gold Fury, and it looks like they're not in range to pick up anybody else, but Yamoja steps back in willingly and thrown into Niflheim. The Riptide falls on several members, and it's going to be Tansy falling first in this fight. Yamoja, the second one to fall. 1 member down from each team so far. Khepri forced to ult himself, but I'm not sure that'll save his life. He falls, as well as Prodigy 2 taken down. Rayham with a double kill in this fight, and it'll be the Gold Fury as well as a 3-for-1, could be a 4-for-1. Great trade out, great blink from the Cook to finish off that kill. Clean 4-for-1 and the Gold Fury for God's base drop.
And don't forget the T1. That should go down really easy for them with 4 members in the location. And we got to talk about this rotation not coming out from Pittsburgh. Adam does get to push up the lane and get some pressure on that side, but had the ability to rotate into the fight a little bit later, and instead went for some back camps, and for my money, a little bit of a questionable decision not to come in with those low HP bars on the side of God's base drop, especially the Cook, who we saw go for that blink stun, was looking like they could have been turned around on if they had that opportunity. Instead, though, God's base drop going to be able to compound this lead, and it's starting to look a lot rougher as 6K creeping up.
Now, we're definitely seeing reminiscence of that Game 2 dominance here. Legionary have already secured more kills than they did in Game 2, so at least a little bit of a better look from them, but they have not been in contention on any of these objectives, and that does not bode well for the upcoming Fire Giant fight in these next 5 minutes, I predict. We will see if any members of Legionary are able to get something going before that happens, as we're about to see Khepri tick over to level 12. We've just seen Yamoja tick over as well. I'm interested to see what those characters get into their second relic slots, so we'll see as they get their backs off here. But right now it's going to be God's base drop pushing down for this tier 1 tower over in the right, finishing it off at that low health bar.
And so far, we haven't seen a need for this Phantom, mainly due to the Odin not rotating over, but could be a little bit of an opportunity to put some damage in. And Argent Surge going to come in, gets the connection, the ultimate going to be used, and Khepri in a pickle.
In a rough spot, still has his ultimate available, may be forced to use it on himself as he does right there, but that may not save his life. It certainly does not save the mid laner's life, and he will fall as well. 2 members down, 1 member down, however, for the side of God's base trap. 2 for 1 on the side right now, but it will be a 3 for 1 as Prodigy falls there. Both ADCs joining this fight early on, forcing the Odin jump over the wall. Pittsburgh Adam finally gets involved in a fight and is able to take 1 down and help his team trade 1 back, but still an overall win for God's base trap as they still want to keep this fight going. Odin trying to get more involved, saving his hunter, but not quite enough to do so, and he might be the one in some trouble now. We'll see if he tries to defend this tier 2, the only one here to do so. He may get engaged on if members choose to go and look at him, but looks like they're going to be satisfied with the tier 2. They may back up after this, reset, maybe look for the Fire Giant, as God's base trap have continued to be dominant in all of these fights.
This certainly could be a look towards that Fire Giant. Keep in mind, they do have Yamoja open to them, but could be a bait instead, as Argent Surge waiting around the corner is going to taunt in the Odin, who's taking a bit of damage, but does have the shield of the stun. Looking for it, cannot connect, and Pyromancer going to be the call instead, as Odin trying to get in there.
God's base trap picking up the Pyromancer. Argent Surge doing a pretty good job of zoning. Does keep those members out, but now under a little bit of trouble himself. Feared from Morgan Le Fay, but not enough damage following up because there's another member in the background. Raijin coming off, doing a little bit of damage as he comes back from base. Pittsburgh Adams still a little bit rough in the health bar, but both teams look like they're happy to reset and ready for this next Fire Giant fight. That looks like what's next on the menu to me.
Likely the next thing, and typically we see it around this 18, 19, 20 minute Fire Giant is likely going to be where you want to look, especially if you have this much of a lead. We've seen God's base drop be able to win these fights pretty much just outright, and at this point you want to put them in the decision of, hey, if we give up the Fire Giant, are they just going to continue to steamroll us like they are, because now they have this buff that gives them even more of this sustain that they already have in the comp, or do we try to take a fight when we're already almost 10k behind, lose it, and potentially lose even more, opening up a Fire Giant and a Phoenix, or just game if they're able to get a really clean push down?
Well, you mentioned almost 10k in that gold deficit, firm 10k in that XP deficit, and that might lead them to winning this fight. Khepri forced out onto Morgan Le Fay. She will escape for the time being, but Argent Surge not done with that one, and the Rama Snipes are able to finish it off. Zeku finishing off the first kill in this fight, and Khepri in a rough spot as well. Double kill for Zeku, able to start this fight on a good note, and it's now going to be a 5v3 for this Fire Giant. 5v2 effectively, though, as Heimdallr is located over in the left lane. Kabrakan backing to deal with that potentially, so a 4v2 at the moment. Odin, good steal potential, not a huge secure ability on the side of God's base drop, but Argent Surge realizes it, baits the blink out of Odin, will get some CC on him there, and perfectly timed CC to prevent him from coming into that Fire Giant, and he's trapped between the Riptide as the enemy team forces themselves onto him and tries to finish off this kill. He will get some survivability in that shield, but it will not be enough. The stun will likely help Argent Surge finish off the kill after that dash comes up, wasting a little bit of time here, but Odin will inevitably fall.
And Odin's buying quite a lot of time. His ultimate finally has to be used for Argent Surge, not wanting to hold it up, but the Cook is running rampant on the left side, secures 1 kill for themselves and is chasing down another one. This will certainly help out the push a little bit, as right side going to be the location of the Rama and the Yamoja, looking to take down this T2 as the Cook buys a lot of time on the left side of the map.
And continuing to buy that time, preventing members from backing right now. It should be a free Phoenix for the side of God's base drop. Morgan won't be able to get there in time quite yet either. Trying to shred that one available, and Heim will be allowed to back here as well, but it's going to be those 2 members there almost in time. Morgan is here to get some abilities off, but it looks like this Phoenix will fall relatively for free as Argent tries to get in here, forces the ult from Morgan, but that will be the end of this engagement.
picking up a pretty easy Phoenix for them, and the Fire Giant just continues this for God's base drop. Have just one T2 remaining, and the Gold Fury is up as well, though likely not a lot of attention going to be paid that way since it is just a regular one. Would like to see them just go ahead and push down this mid after they get some backs off, pick up some of these buffs. You're really at the point where you can kind of force in and look at one of these in-game scenarios. We talked about the gold lead, which is ballooned even more, and now you have this right side pushing down. They were able to make it happen last time.
Yeah, they were successful on this siege the last time, and now they're in the left lane, it looks like, or at least Legionary in this left lane, trying to secure that purple buff before they're unable to anymore. That's the last remaining tier 2 tower for God's base drop, and likely where they're setting their sights on as they're going to push with the remaining amount of this Fire Giant still on them for quite a long time. And we can take this lax time to take a look at the scoreboard. Huge scoreline out of Argent Surge. We saw him start off the game 6-0, now 8-0-10. Highest kill participation on his team, doing a ton to impact these fights, and I've liked his impact so far. And the Cook as well, just doing an absolutely fantastic job. Both of them in the front line, both of them doing a good job of zoning, setting up their teammates to get that damage online. And I like the way that they're playing these team fights very front to back.
Having this tanky Circuit really acts as another frontliner and has allowed them to get in deep, dive hard, and then the damage has been coming out of Rama, so it's worked out really well for them. Circuit likes this tanky build, but we'll see how this left side works out as they're pressuring onto the Phoenix.
Urgent Surge choosing to push down in mid lane, a 4-1 split here, but no huge damage on the enemy side just yet. Argent Surge still forcing some time over in the mid lane as people are hesitant to engage. They do have a minion wave now, and it's going to be Cook stepping in. A lot of damage onto the Odin here. Cage forced out. His jump is forced as well. Phantom gets popped, so they're safe from the cage from the time being, and Phoenix is falling fast, but not as fast as Argent Surge. Able to get out just in the nick of time, but Khepri might be none the wiser. Forced to the ultimate himself, so unable to save any of his teammates there. Chubby Ostrich will be forced out as well, but not as low of a health bar, as members have healed up now. Still a 5v5 for both sides as the left Phoenix falls. Members now in the mid lane. Argent Surge low, so not able to join the fight. Pittsburgh Adam will start in with a jump, but he may fall instantly. Very low health bar, able to get that shield off, but he does fall, as does the support. Zeku with a kill as well on that second member. Tainzy trying to force them off the Phoenix and able to be successful so far. Very low members for God's base drop as they hesitate to push this one in, but good blink from Argent Surge, able to secure some of that damage, and a dash from Ryan will finish that one off. 3 members now down for the count on the side of Legionary. That's going to open up an end opportunity for God's base drop. Low members on the health bar, but Titans also getting a little bit low to start. Looks like they're going to focus the members off the bat. Rayham with a double kill, going to look for the triple, but falls to Tainzy instead. Tainzy has an opportunity for a base defense here. His members are low, but Titan falling to half HP. Tainzy looking to fall as well. Zeku with another kill in that, but the mid and carry picking up double kills in that fight, and the final kill on the Titan as God's base drop clean up the set.
God's base drop looked absolutely dominant throughout that one, and is really running it back from the second game, right? They looked incredibly dominant in that game, are able to just kind of do whatever they want across the map, and that's the strength of this comp. Is you have the healing into it, you have this limitation coming out of the Kabrakan, the Umoja River's Rebuke, and then all that control we saw out of Argent Surge just made it too difficult for them. They were really just placed in front of this Rama out of Zeku, who at 9-1-10 had just about as much of an impact as you can ask for.
Ton of damage coming out of both carries there, and a ton of setup coming out of the jungle solo combo there. Umoja to finish off with the heals. Both of these teams looking solid in week number 3, but it looks like God's base drop will inevitably take the set victory. That'll do it for us on the cast. I've been Frog. He has been Bastion. We'll throw it back to the desk for the final breakdown. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that lovely cast. God's base drop with the reverse sweep. Snaked, in your opinion, what exactly went right for them in that last game?
It was jungle diff, honestly. The circuit was so good, and she wasn't even like going like full damage. She was like those tanky circuits that are really annoying, that are all in your face all the time. And she did a perfect job, like especially helping out in the solo lane and the dual lane, because the mid lane was kind of even, and maybe that's because you have, especially in the mid game, you have nothing left to do with when you have like a Raijin against a Morgan Le Fay. They're just going to do damage to each other all the time. But the circuit was so impactful in so many team fights in dual lane and in solo lane that made the solo laner and the hunter uh, become relevant in the mid game. And for for the other team, that was really hard. It was really hard to stop, even though the Morgan Le Fay, I guess, at the end ended with like the most higher, most top player damage. That wasn't enough to stop the snowball that God Space had.
Yeah, I mean, I think Argent Surge certainly started things off right in that jungle, and the rest of the team kind of followed up. They sort of got ahead. They did pretty much the same thing that they did in game two. They got ahead and they just never let go of that lead, and they just looked the stronger of the two sides throughout. And I mean, you could probably go back and play it off and be like, well, maybe they should have picked something else. The Kepri, I don't feel like they got a whole lot of value out of. He was forced to sort of alt himself a lot, but I think at the end of the day, it's just an execution thing. And in season 8 in particular, it's such a heavy snowball meta that if you can put lanes behind early, you can certainly find yourself in the victory column most of the time, right?
No, I was about to mention that the Capri was not impactful as you expect it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess I don't know. I guess that was just maybe the plan in in the team comp at the beginning, or maybe they were trying to since you have like a circuit, you need like that revive for your backline. But either way, it didn't work, and it really comes everything to how the team comp for God's base drop was executed, and it's every congratulations for them, because this was really a big win.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a textbook performance in game 2 and game 3 for God's Space Drop to find that win. And I think that was certainly a fun game to watch. Game 3 particularly, it seemed like at least for the first 10-15 minutes, it was like one kill every 30 seconds, right? It was a bit of a bloodbath, and then all the meanwhile, it's not like an arena game though. I think a lot of people look at lower leagues, uh, and they go, well, they tend to be more like an arena match, right, where it's just kills for kills for kills. But the one thing that God's Base Drop was able to do is, even though they were finding a lot of kills and a lot of fights, they were able to sort of turn the momentum into getting objectives and then further put their opponents behind. And I think that that's something that really shows their skill, not only as a team, but as individual players as well.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of surprised me that the most slow paced game, which was the first one, is the one that Hastatii won. But then the other two games, regardless of the team comps, it was constant fighting. And at the end, maybe that's what Gus Bastrop really wanted. Like constant fight, constant pressure, being able to find the victory. And I guess that was the plan all along, because both games that were like as you mentioned, like maybe like an arena, with a lot of kills before even 10 minutes, that was a huge impact in God's Space Drop game, and the snowball that they were able to make into the late game.
Yeah, and I once again, I think it's just well executed on their part. Well, we are going to throw it to a break, but don't go anywhere. We do have a second game. We have some collegiate Smite action where the University of Kentucky Wildcats are going to face off against Alini. So stick around for that one. We'll be right back.